And I go by she, they pronouns. I was born in Canada to parents from Hong Kong and grew up in New York.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Jang, for your introductions and calling in your intentions and where you come from. And just a brief introduction. My name is Katie. I use she, her pronouns. My ancestors are from Guangdong province, Toisan, and I am here on Chochenyo Ohlone lands in the Bay Area, and really feeling this space and deep gratitude to share this space with Chang, Amy, and each one of you.
So do you want to put on the little Prezi thing that we have, Katie?
Yeah. Right.
So when we were getting ready for tonight, we wanted to share this kind of 3-circle agenda with you all, but also know that the universe and the spirits might have their way, and we might actually only focus on one of these. So we wanted to just share the intention with you, but then let whatever comes into the moment be with us. So the first circle that we wanted to do tonight is just situating us in the present tonight, December 13th, on the eve of the new moon. And, what does that mean for us to be in this transition, in this new moon, and also with this eclipse? The second thing that we wanted to focus on tonight is to really look into the future, into the eye of the cosmos of what does it mean to be in transition from 2020 to 2021. A lot of us have heard about Aquarius, but what does that really mean? And so we wanted to get some wisdom from the cosmos about that. And then the third part of what we wanted to do tonight is really spend time reflecting within ourselves and in community. And just as somebody else mentioned, how do we be with cosmos and in community with each other? And so we wanted to take the time to do that. And the way we're hoping to work tonight is really in a call and response, with Katie being able to share some of the astrological wisdom that's come through from her readings and explorations. And then I'll lead some of the energetic and somatic response based on some of the things that Katie is sharing. And yeah, that's what we're hoping to do tonight. Any other thoughts you want to add on that, Katie?
Yeah, I think that sums up a lot of what we'll be sharing tonight. And yeah, just like you were saying earlier, Amy, this is a fluid space, and we'll be talking a lot about transitioning into more air, the element of air. We'll go more into that. Aquarius is an air sign, and yeah, air is buoyant, air is fluid, changing, and light. So yeah, really want to connect to that energy as we move through this evening together.
Right. As Jag mentioned, a couple of weeks ago, I was feeling this urge to create space and community in thinking about this transition. And I know that for many of us, it's been hard to do rituals or be in community together this past year. And so given it's such a big transition year from 2020 to 2021, part of why this was important for me to do was to really mark transition together in community. And then the second thing was to really bring awareness to what's happening around us in the cosmos. I feel what the cosmos does on a visceral level and can connect to that. But in terms of like knowing, some of the wisdom from the stars, I was really looking for someone to help clarify that. And I sometimes don't like reading or reading, the internet and things like that. So I was like, oh, this is so great. Katie can actually share with us and kind of digest that information for us. And then the last thing that was really important for me was just to see how, when all this transition, we can stay present with ourselves and in our body. So that's some of the intention that I wanted to bring.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Amy. Yeah. And, like Jang and Amy mentioned, Amy was really looking to host this space and has a very intuitive relationship with the cosmos. And, honestly, like that, I feel like that relationship that we have with the cosmos, with nature and the cycles of nature, that lives within us. And that is, each of our own experiences and our own intuitive wisdom. And yes, it's definitely helpful to have, also the mental concepts and to listen and to hear to, whether it's an astrologer or reading a book, what's going on. So definitely want to value both the intuitive and your own intuition, your own wisdom. Really want to put that, emphasize that. And I will be here to also provide context in a more mental sense.
Great. I wanted to just start off in sharing a poem, just knowing how hard 2020 has been for so many of us on a personal, collective level. The poem is called Waiting in Bloom. I am nothing. The harvest is long gone. Winter came with its harshest freeze last year. And now I am soil. The ground is damp from tears that feed the hungry earth and land of my soul. I am quiet, quiet like a seed, hopeful of a future that promises nothing but growth, that dreams of visions of every color, and especially blue. I'm just a seed waiting, waiting in bloom. And that's the intention that I'm really hoping to bring for myself tonight, and hopefully for all of us, is how do we move through this really challenging year of 2020 and all the excitement and inspiration that's coming for 2021? What is that seed that we're hoping to bloom in the new year?
Thank you, Amy, for sharing. It's really resonant for me personally, and I'm sure for others as well. I also have an image and a few words I want to share with you all. That has to do with my intention and coming to this space, my journey and process coming to this space. This is just a sketch that came through me a few months ago. I have a few words to go with it. I see how grief moves like a stream of water. Grief must move. Grief must be allowed to flow. Grief must be allowed to be as is. Grief must be allowed to return to source. In return, there is spaciousness. In return, there is space to be. In return, there is space to flow. I am here, and we are here at the precipice of our fragmentation, our doing, the base for our becoming. So yeah, just I'm here, and I've come here in this space, and as a return, as a coming home and coming back to self. And I hope we can share that journey with you all, and wherever you are in your process of relationship with home and with self. All right. Okay, everyone, I am going to bring us back to our circles, our little bubbles. And yeah, feel free to drop in the chat anything that comes up for you personally, if you'd like to share at any time, really. We'd love to hear from you. So just a reminder. Yeah, let us dive into some of the astrology and situating us in the present moment. Today, tonight, this evening on December 13th. Yeah. So, as many of you may know, and as Amy mentioned, tomorrow morning there is a new moon.
Katie, can you share your screen again? Or
Sorry, what was that?
can you share your screen again, or is it just me that is look pretty small?
Oh, is it small?
Yeah.
Hang on, are you seeing the bubble?
Oops. Where did Katie go? Yeah, I think Katie got dropped off, so we'll kind of give some time for Katie to come back up. There we go.
Jang, Corona just suggested that we can put Katie on speaker view and it'll make it big.
Okay.
So is Katie there now?
Yeah, Katie's back.
Yeah. My apologies, everyone. All right, I am going to take us through this. Yeah, just give me 1 minute, and maybe in the meantime, I don't know if anyone knows anything about eclipses, but eclipses are definitely a frenetic energy. And I was wondering how people have been feeling in the past couple of weeks as we've been through some eclipses. We'll want to share in the chat. As I set this up. Okay.
Thanks for folks sharing in the chat just how eclipses have been affecting you all and the intensity of it. And folks can even share if they've had some practices that they've tried for grounding during this time. So a lot of people talking about exhaustion, feeling a lot of the intensity, tired, trauma, old trauma coming up, been in a fog. Some folks been feeling good lately.
All right, thank you.
Feeling unearthed, a lot of surprises, unraveling.
Thank you for sharing, everyone. Yeah, I really appreciate just the check-ins. We will dive into eclipses now. I'm just going to share my screen, Amy and Jang, so it won't be the overlay, but we'll go into the Prezi. All right. So thank you everyone for sharing. It sounds like there is, a lot that people are moving through. Unraveling is the last word that I saw. And I kind of look through it. In a fog, emotional chaos, exhausted. Yeah, so it sounds like bringing up a lot of feelings and a lot of different energies surfacing. And, that's been going on, I'm sure, this whole year, but especially in these months. And with astrology can really help us situate in the present and see the larger context of what we're in. It's kind of like we step back to see from the perspective of the cosmos. And the cosmos exists in cycles, just as nature exists in cycles, and just as we, as part of nature and part of the cosmos, exist in cycles. And so, there are lunar cycles, seasonal cycles, the cycle of growth of a plant, growth and decay. We are constantly in various cycles, and individual and collective. And they're all interwoven. And so we can be at different parts of the cycles. We can be at a birthing part, or a culminating part, or a shedding part of the cycle at different parts of our lives. So tomorrow we have a new moon, and it's also a solar eclipse, and we'll dive into what eclipses are specifically, but just in general, new moons are generally a time when we are in the dark. We can't see the moon. So literally and symbolically, we are in the dark. New moons are very much time for planting. Planting as in going into the soil, into that dark, invisible space, and planting a seed. And as the moon grows to the full moon, it grows to a time of culmination. So many people tend to set intentions during the new moon, planting a seed for what's to come in that lunar cycle. Now, the new moon tomorrow is special because it is also a solar eclipse. And eclipses are basically amplified new moons or full moons. And the intensity can be really felt of eclipses. So ancients back in the day saw eclipses in the sky and thought of them as omens, very significant events. So eclipses tend to happen on average about 4 to 5 times per year with either a new moon or a full moon. And they tend to happen in pairs, either 2 within a couple weeks span or 3 within slightly larger few weeks span. So tomorrow we have a solar eclipse and new moon. And 2 weeks ago, we had a lunar eclipse and full moon. So we've been in the thick of eclipses for the past few weeks in this energy. So what are eclipses? Eclipses are portals, and they're portals in the sense of they are they're openings for long-term change to occur. And forces that are much greater than us are at play right now during eclipses. So as these portals open during eclipses, much is being released, shed, passed through. So much on a personal level, but beyond the personal level, on a cosmic level and on a collective level. So generally, when there are eclipses are different than typical new moons and full moons because there are much greater forces at play. And so eclipses are time of allowing for whatever surfaces, whatever it might be, allowing for those things to surface and move and be. I'm sure during eclipses, there are so many urges at times to close up as things come up, to close up and to try and force and change and direct our will into controlling the things that surface. During eclipse time is especially important to remember to allow for things to move through, that this will pass. And this is a particularly sensitive portal time where there's a lot moving through us that is particularly intense and is part of a larger force. So many of you may be coming to this space. I know many of you at the beginning wrote, why are you coming to the space? What are you here for? And many of you wrote grounding and grounding in community. So I just want to bring us through a few things that we can remember during eclipses before we transition to our collective grounding together. And during eclipses, like I said, it is a time to allow for things to move through us, to be open and receptive to whatever is surfacing, to whatever is surfacing that perhaps we are not used to, we're not familiar with, and to be curious about those things. And just a reminder that the days of the eclipses and the days around the eclipses, we may be particularly sensitive, tender, and drained. And just to take that into account and be aware of those days. So right now, there's an eclipse tomorrow. One thing that I really love to tap into in the energy of eclipses that have to do with the moon is the energy of water, since the energy of water is so tied in with the moon. So a really helpful practice that I have in this time is anything with water, whether that is bathing, whether that's visiting water, if that's accessible, being near water, or that's washing with water or energetic washing the body, allowing for tears to flow if they come up. And really, one thing that I love is also imagining being in water, whether that's floating on the ocean, on a lake, being immersed in water, even being and returning to the womb, really holding space for that. Yeah. And one final thing before we move into our collective grounding to go along with water is tapping into any practices where there is ebb and flow movement, where there's circular, cyclical movement. And that may be anything as simple as moving your hips around in a circle or doing neck circles. Or if you have other movement practices that involve that breathing in and out, those are very helpful during this time as well. So I want to transition to Amy. And also opening anyone, if you have anything that's coming up, feel free to drop it in the chat.
So thanks for sharing all of that. I want to move us into our first energy practice in response to this new moon and also this eclipse. And I just really appreciate everyone sharing where they're at right now. I'm just going to ring this tuning fork. And as I ring it, take a moment to find a comfortable position that you can be in for the next 5 to 6 minutes. If it feels comfortable, you can gently close your eyes. And then just open your ears to listen to the sound. One of the things that Katie mentioned was letting things be. And all the things that might be rising to the surface, this intensity of this eclipse wanting to bring long-term change and shift in us. And so the first movement we're going to start off with is a movement that starts from your belly and just a calling forward. So I'm just moving my hands up my belly and sending the energy out. You can see me move my hands out. And this movement that starts in the belly, we're just going to release whatever emotion, whatever physical symptom, whatever mental block we might be having. The reason why we're moving it from the belly is because the belly is known as our second brain. It's like that visceral part of our body that feels and perceives. So whatever that gets stuck in that belly button, just move it out. You can slow the gesture down to a more meditative pose where you can release one by one through breath what it is that's coming up. And as we release it to the center of the circle, we just ask the intergalactic beings and Venus light to just transmute and transform all of these heavy energies. Just take a deep breath in and a slow exhale with the release. Deep breath in through the gut and long exhale. And just know that the eclipse is giving us this portal and this opportunity to release what doesn't serve us anymore. And so just take a moment to connect with the energy of this eclipse portal with gratitude for bringing shift and transformation. Now take a moment to put your hand right at your belly. And imagine gold light 12 feet on top of your head, just coming in streams, touching the top of your head and moving all the way down your spine. And with each breath you take, that white light just pours down your spine. Releasing what no longer serves you in this present moment. And as this white light connects with our bodies, we just call in the highest spirit guides, Venus light, Sirius light, and the intergalactic realms to support this transformation and hold us in a hexagon shape. As the white light travels down, have it meet your navel. And then move it inside so it's at the center of your body behind your navel. And then you're going to go down about 3 inches from that point. That center is called your dantian. And this is the place where we can connect and find grounding within ourselves. So just first take a white light and draw a circle that looks like a plate inside your body where the dantian is. And just let that white plate sit inside your body. When you look down at the plate, just ask to connect to the center of the earth. And a beam of light from that plate is going to connect to the center of Gaia. And really feel that connection with the center of the earth. You're going to come up to your plate now. And you're going to imagine tracing your plate in a circle. Imagine 12 o'clock at your navel. And you're going to move to 3 o'clock. Then you're going to move to 6 o'clock behind your back. Then you're going to move on to the left at 9 and back to 12. So similar to what Katie mentioned, being in movement during eclipses, we're going to be making this circle within our body at our dantian. 12 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12. You can start going at your own pace now. And you can even imagine your fingers are dipped in red light. Red is the color of the first chakra. It helps us ground to the earth. So just move that red light in a circular motion within your body at your dantian around this plate. As you do this, just bring breath in and breath out. For some of us, it might be new to connect to this part of our body. I like to think of it like, you know, when you do ab core workout, they always tell you to work on your core. And as you strengthen your core, the rest of your body comes into alignment. This is a similar thing. This is like energetic core workout. We're just making a circular motion in red light with this plate and just bringing awareness to our energetic core. You can say hi to it and just start noticing texture, feel, sensation if it's saying anything to you. Just be present with your core. For some of you, it might actually benefit to actually physically create that circle. You can try that too. And as we sit in the space, you can take a moment to set your intentions for the new moon, that seed that you want to plant within yourself. And thinking about this transition in this next year. We're going to tap back in now to that white light and have that white light just connect with the center of your head. And 3 deep breaths. Then we're going to have that same white light connect to our throat center and take 3 deep breaths. And then lastly, our heart center, right at the center of our chest, at our sternum. Just bring the white light there and take 3 deep breaths. And when you're ready, just put your hands at your heart center. Feel the connection between you and yourself. Feel the connection between you and the floor. Feel your connection between you and the group. Take a deep breath in. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and come back into the space. If folks want to take just a minute to either draw or write on your paper or journal, or just even let us know in the chat anything that's coming up for you. We'll just take this pause as we integrate all of this. And take another 30 seconds. And if folks want to share into the group space, you're welcome to do that too. How was that for you? Were you able to release some of what your body was holding? What's your body? What do you notice your body saying to you now? And just honoring the different experiences people are having, whether people were able to connect with their heart, if folks were still finding that their bodies were distracted. If folks were able to take a moment to see and notice what their body was saying. All of it is wonderful to just allow and let it be, as this time of eclipse is really giving us the chance to just be with whatever it is. I'm going to pass it back now to Katie so she can take us into transition and continue to, write in the chat box and share whatever's coming up for you.
Thank you so much, Amy, for moving us through this grounding and this connecting to different parts of self, the Dantian, heart space. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for sharing, either in the chat or just with yourselves, and being the space connected to yourself, meeting yourself where you're at. I want to transition us to a second stepping back into the view of the cosmos, and meet your needs where you're at. If anyone needs to take a break and needs to step back, and just do what you need. But we're going to move into a little bit more of situating us in the cycles that we are part of through the lens of astrology. All right, I'm going to share my screen. All right. So we took an inner lens just now with Amy, looking into ourselves and our different spaces within ourselves. And together, we're now going to take a step back into the gaze of the cosmos and the stars, and the wisdom of the stars and the planets. And I want to situate us in this moment in time of 2020. Astrologically, 2020 has been a year where many long-term cycles, several year cycles, have come to a close. And in coming to a close, they make space for new beginnings. In a sense, it's like a new moon, but with different planets and with much longer cycles. So one cycle that I want to focus on, there have been many in this year of 2020 that have come to a close, but one cycle I want to focus on is a cycle that is coming to a close and beginning in 8 days on the winter solstice, December 21st. And that cycle is with Jupiter and Saturn, 2 planets that we can see with our eyes in the sky. So Jupiter and Saturn are going to conjoin in the sky in the 1st degree of Aquarius on December 21st of this year. And Jupiter and Saturn generally meet up every 20 years in the same position in their conjunction. So they go through 20-year cycles. However, Jupiter and Saturn, those 20-year cycles are part of a larger 200-year cycle in which Jupiter and Saturn in that 200-year cycle meet in a sign of just one element. So for the past 200 years, approximately 200 years, Jupiter and Saturn have been making their conjunctions, their cycles in all, for the most part, Earth signs. And as we move into this new 20-year cycle, it initiates also a new 200-year cycle of Jupiter and Saturn conjoining in air signs. So essentially, this year in this conjunction that's happening in a week's time is really shuffling us into an era of about 200 years of Earth to air. And one final thing I want to say about Jupiter and Saturn is that Jupiter and Saturn really, their cycles have to do very much with social values. And how do our values collectively play out? What do we value and how does that look? So let us visit the element of Earth first to see where we're coming from in these past 200 years. Now, the past 200 years, if we think to the beginning of the 1800s, is a time of growing industrialization, of growing, taking and grabbing and destroying of Earth's resources because of the valuing of material resources. So let's first, though, look to just the element of Earth. When we think of Earth, we think of earthing or grounding, coming back to our bodies. Earth is tangible, solid. It has physical, material form. Earth is drawn downwards with gravity. So Earth is very much about definition and having solid form. And when there's a valuing of Earth, there's a valuing of material and material resources. There's a valuing of, and a concept of I am me. You are you. I have this. You have this. There are very separate distinctions between ourselves and other material things. So we can see how that's played out societally. And we can also reflect on how that's affected us personally in our own lives, how there has been an emphasis on earth and definition. So as we transition into air, we can think of, what is the element of air? Air is light, air is flexible. Air is in space, and it's constantly shifting and moving and alternating and changing. Air is soaring upwards and outwards. Air is buoyant. And air is very much tied into energy, energetics, not necessarily tangible in defined form. Air also has to do with mental concepts, ideas. Again, not tangible, not physically defined and formed. So air, societally especially, and when we think about our personal lives, really has to do with connection. Again, connection in this not necessarily tangible way. And thus has to do with collaboration, exchange, the movement in between, and therefore relationships. So with air, there's an emphasis and a valuing of connection, connectivity, of the networks and webs that we are a part of. And again, these things are not necessarily tangible, physically, we can't physically hold on to them, but we feel them and we intuitively know within ourselves the strength of these connections. So let's talk briefly about Aquarius, because this conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn is happening in the sign of Aquarius. And Aquarius is an air sign, and we just talked about air. Aquarius is a sign that very much sees and values the greater picture, the greater web of which we are a part of, and is able to see the individual parts in which the whole is made up of. So Aquarius has this both and thinking. It sees the whole picture and also sees the value of each individual part and their own particular role and their particular place and being within the greater picture. So Aquarius really sees the interconnectedness and sees how, as individuals, we are both responsible to ourselves and to others in society. And Aquarius is very visionary. It's able to see the greater picture and to see what can be and what is really almost like bubbling within this greater scheme, this greater network of who we are. And so in this time when there is an emphasis on Aquarius, an emphasis on connection, an emphasis on the greater picture, we also can turn to, in astrology, we can turn to, when there's an emphasis on one sign, we can also look at the sign opposite from that one sign to see the dynamic that's at play. Because as we've talked about in our time together, There is dynamicism, there is movement in everything. We're moving into a space of air where we see relationship, where we see that things aren't necessarily just defined and on their own. So it's helpful to look at this axis of Aquarius and its opposite sign of Leo. And Leo in astrology rules the heart, and as well as the sun. And is very much the center of each of ourselves. And some of us tapped into our hearts just now with Amy's grounding. It is the focal point from which we emanate life, radiance, warmth, spirit. So, in increasing connectivity, in increasing emphasis on networks and webs, we remember to return to our heart space, because the heart is the focal point for which connections are made. So Leo is very much the heart, and Aquarius is the heart's path. And heart and heart's path, Leo and Aquarius, are the center of connection. They are highlighting the bridges in which we create through connection. Both parts are important. And before we move into Amy's next embodiment practice, really want to tap into spaciousness. I'm gonna actually move through this part and take us to this. So how do we ground when there's increasing, as we're transitioning from earth to air, as we're transitioning from our typical and familiar places of grounding within ourselves? This whole year has been one where what we know to be grounding within ourselves and within our environments has been shaken, has been pulled out from underneath us. And we are finding new ways to be, and to be within ourselves, and to connect with ourselves, and to find grounding and peace within ourselves and within our environments and our collective. And so much of that transition to air can be really ungrounding and frenetic and destabilizing. We are moving into greater connection, and with connection, like I was saying, it's really important to come back to our heart space. And in one thing I want to bring up with, in Chinese medicine, the heart is always radiating, it is always being. You think of the heart as the governor, and it is always emanating life. And so sometimes it may not feel like we're tapped into our heart space, but we have to remember that the heart is always there. It's always giving life. And in Chinese medicine, when something is radiating light, it is not from a place of accumulation, but from a place of void. And in tapping in with our own heart, so much of the process is clearing and cleansing the space, the heart space around the heart and within the heart. It's clearing, tapping into the heart. In cleansing and clearing, we can clear the space and clear the excess that has maybe muddied or blocked our heart from being. So with that, I'm going to transition to Amy into our next embodiment practice.
Thanks so much for sharing, Katie. I can feel so many of our hearts wanting to exactly do that practice. You can leave that image there, the cleansing and clearing the heart space. Actually, though, maybe not, because then people can't see me if they need to see this movement. So we're going to move into our next practice that, again, is going to be about 7 to 8 minutes. And the practice is going to start off with energizing, and then we're going to do some of that clearing to the heart. And then we're going to really get silent with the heart so we can listen to what it is our heart is saying to us. Katie just moved us through what's happening in these next few weeks, and such an interesting shift. And Katie, how long have we been in Earth, and how long is it going to be now in air?
So it's been about 200 years since the beginning of the 1800s, and we'll be in air for the next 200 years.
That's crazy. That's like industrialization, right? That's when it started in the 1800s. So you can imagine like these 2 centuries of hardcore Earth grounding, creating, staying in this material world, and such a shift to this world where it's all about connecting and relating to each other, and what that must feel like for the body. So thanks for sharing that. So we're first going to start off with energizing, and energizing is always good before we clear, because you have to have energy to release. So you're just going to rub your hands together. If it hurts to rub them physically, you can just do them in the air, or you can actually just imagine your hands rubbing together if that feels better for you. And in between our hands, we are bringing gold light. And this is your own personal gold light in connection with the universe. You might feel a sensation, a warm shape taking forms. You can see if you can really connect with this light. This helps bring us present. We're going to gather now energy from the cosmos. We're just going to do like a big inhale all the way. Bring your hands up to the sky. And just receive the universe energy with gratitude, and bring it down the front of your body. And bring it down to your belly button. And then we're going to do it again. Hands up. You can look to the sky. Just bring that light from the universe in. And ask the life force of the universe to come and meet you in your body. We're going to do it 4 more times. Just bring that energy through your fingers, down the front of your body. And just let all that life force energy gather in your belly, in the navel that we had just been working on earlier. Again. Three more times. And one last time, connect with the energy of the universe and bring it down into your body at your navel center. Just hold your hands in front of your navel. If you want, you can circle your belly button in a big circle like this. Just let that energy connect with your dantian. And in this moment, you're just going to acknowledge with your body that we've been in earth energy. And as a collective, global humanity, we've been in earth energy for 200 years. Just let your body feel whatever that acknowledgement brings. And then you're going to slow the circle down and just bring it to the center of your belly. We're now going to bring our hands to the center of the circle, just like we did in that first exercise where you're going from your belly out to the center. And this time, in your own pace, you're going to send gratitude to the earth energy that's held us for 200 years. And just let all the gratitude move to the center of the room with earth energy. Now put your hands out to the center of the room. And we're just going to raise our hands up to the sky, almost like you're releasing it. And in this release, we're just allowing that transition to take place for earth energy to transition out so that air energy can transition in. And obviously the earth has been doing this. We felt a lot of this shift moving to air energy and release this year. But this is more for us, kind of like a ritual to acknowledge that we're moving cycles. So let's just do it one more time. Lift it up to the air and exhale. And just put your hands on your thighs as the earth energy releases. As earth energy releases, we're going to bring down white light from Venus, just pouring in. I can just feel all the energy pouring in from the sky, moving down, and just let that energy take up space now in our belly region. And that's what transition is, letting go of what's no longer needed in the present moment so that what is can come in. So as this Venus light comes down and kind of like initiates the space for love, we're going to move from our belly to our heart center. You can start first by just taking 2 fingers with white light and just opening up the circle at your sternum or the center of your chest. And just opening the heart center. And then you can put your hands down. And just let that white light sit in the center of our hearts. And whatever our hearts are ready to release, we ask the Venus light to just help in this process of releasing and transforming. Just let all that energy that's ready to leave the heart, whatever burdens we've been holding, emotions, just let them come to the center of the room, and the Venus light will just transmute it all. It's like Goodwill time. You just pack things up, put them in bags, and just let this energy be released so it can get recycled and reused. If you need some extra support, you can rub your hands with your gold light again from the universe. And just put that light in the center of the chest and warm it up. And just hold your heart. And as each of our hearts clear, if there's any of us who need support in repairing or strengthening the energy structures in our heart, we just ask that these intergalactic energies help make those repairs in our hearts. And bring wholeness into our heart centers. We're transitioning now from gold light to green light, like apple green, the color of the heart chakra, and just let that color of green just fill the heart. And again, for those who like more physical movements, you can literally imagine like things being pulled from the center of the chest, just sending it up to the sky in gold light. And as we release whatever's no longer needed in the heart, it creates more space, that void that Katie was talking about, more space to be in air energy. Each of us can now, like with a gentle breeze like this, breathe into your own heart. And we're changing the color now from green to violet to help with DNA repair, with ancestral wounds. Just blow this gentle violet light into your own heart. And as we blow this purple light, we're welcoming. Welcome this air energy onto the planet. She's sitting in the middle of our room. Welcome her into our space. Send out intentions with your purple breath of what inspires you, what excites you about moving into air, into flow, into connectivity, into networks, into constellations. And now just use the gesture from your heart, sending out to the middle of the room. This air goddess. And just sending your heartfelt intentions, whether they're verbal or whether they're just sounds or colors. Whatever welcome we have. Jen, can you unmute us all?
Yes.
As we have our hands extended out towards the center of the room, acknowledging air, acknowledging these transitions, I wonder if we can just put out one word or new cycle.
Amy, could you repeat the last part? I think you got cut off just a little bit.
Sure. I was saying that as we have our hands or our intentions out to the center of the room, welcoming this air energy, that we can each offer a word or a couple of words for the intentions that we would like for ourselves, the planet, humanity, our community, as we move into the new cycle of air.
Yeah, if folks feel called to, can you unmute yourself and said and yeah, like put in the word that you would like to share in this space.
And folks can say it verbally or they can put it out in the chat as well. Clarity.
Love.
Insight.
Collaboration.
Spaciousness.
Elevation. Hope.
Peace.
Connection and love.
Equity.
Yeah.
Acceptance and action. Community and mutuality. Equanimity. Restorative justice.
Expansiveness.
Sustainability. Fluidity.
Interdependence.
Compassion. Being accountable to each other.
Interdependence. Ethereal liminality. Vulnerable connection.
Joy.
Reciprocity.
Honesty. Trust.
Fullness, bravery.
Life. Truth. Calmness.
Abundance. female energy. Thanks for everyone putting all of this energy into the space as we welcome this new air cycle. And we also send gratitude to Earth energy for holding space for us and humanity for 200 years. We're going to close with this practice. And if you want, you can do it with me. We're going to have our hands open and just feel all of the energy that we have been creating together, all the buoyancy, Katie was talking about. Just feel a lot of buoyancy and light into the space. Just let it kind of sit in your hands. And we're first going to take this energy, and with gratitude, we're going to have gratitude to ourselves and our hearts for being in this space and in our bodies. So just bring that energy with an inhale and just connect to your heart. And then we're going to open our hands back up. Connect with the energy again. And just send it to somebody in our space now. Take a deep breath in and just share it with someone else in the room. And then just bring it back to your heart again, just catching that energy and bringing it back to the heart. And then opening our hands again. This time we're going to send it to the center of the room and up and out. And just sending love to all of our ancestors. In the sky, in the stars, on the land, in the water. Just let it like stardust, sending gratitude to all of our ancestors. And noticing our connection with them. And bringing it back to our heart as we receive their love. And lastly, back open. And this time just sending energy to the center of the room, to the cosmos, and just thanking our connection with the universe. Sending it out. And just feeling that protection and that bubble and that love from the universe. I know we went over in time tonight, but we just want to thank everyone for being here in community and holding space for ourselves, each other, our collective, and with the universe. I'll pass it now to Katie and Jang.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all for being here, and thank you, Amy and Katie, for offering, your wisdom and practices to us all. This is, our first time kind of holding like this space. And we were in discussion about, what if, like this could be a series. So, like we would love your feedback. I can send out, you know, like an email with this recording as well, if you want to come back to it, to these practices. And also, you know, with some just kind of like feedback that you would like to give us. And yeah, we are really happy. And, you know, with this call, like we weren't sure, like I think, you know, like there was just an urge of needing to create space. And this is really beautiful. And I'm hopeful that, you know, we can offer this and just kind of create a space together again. There was time in the agenda for some questions. If you have questions or comment, I know we went over time, but yeah, like if Amy and Katie, if you're willing to, if folks have questions or comment, you know, you're welcome to ask. Or I guess actually Katie and Amy, are you open to questions and comment? A little bit of time. Okay, yeah.
I am.
Yes.
Yeah. So
So yeah, go ahead, Katie.
yeah, just anyone who needs to, you know, leave. Thank you for being here. And yeah, Jane will send out an email for feedback. And thank you for being here. So yeah, I'm here. I can be here and would love to be here to answer any questions or just have a chat about how people are doing. If you want to check in on this Sunday evening. So yeah, feel free to unmute yourself, or if you want to drop something in the chat, either way works.
And for those of you who need to leave, don't feel shy. I know some folks are East Coasters, so we appreciate everyone being on this call. And yeah, we hope that this work, it felt really potent for me just to do this in community, and the energy of the space. My heart is like, going like that. So thank you all for just coming so fully present into the space. So it looks like we are moving into questions. Christmas is asking, what are thoughts on the Geminids meteor shower occurring through tonight and tomorrow?
You know, I would love to open that up to anyone who's heard more about it, because this is something that is new to me. So I don't know, Christmas, is that how you pronounce your name? If you had anything that you would like to share. And also, you don't have to, but been hearing about this meteor shower, and then also there's been kind of news on the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. People are calling it the Christmas star, or like the Star of Bethlehem. So those are kind of the like news feed things that are coming up. I don't know what other, if anyone's heard of anything else. But yeah, I actually don't know that much about the meteor shower, so, but if anyone has anything to share about that, love to hear. Yeah. Does anyone have any intuition? I guess I was happened to my intuition about the meteor shower. You know, the first thing that I think of in terms of the meteor shower and meteors in general, I guess the very first thing I thought of was like a shower of stars. And we talked about like washing and also movement, and it almost brings to mind and to heart, to body, this like peppering energy, this more, in a sense, a bit more active and light energy, a bit more hopeful. So that's what comes to mind for me in terms of image.
Yeah, I don't know about this energy, but I think, yeah, when I tap into it similarly, it feels very light, just a lot of light energy moving through. And I notice other people saying that they're feeling this peppering energy and buzzing with release in the eclipse. Giselle's asking, does the Geminids meteor mean it's related to Gemini energy?
Not that I know of. I don't believe so. Yeah, it's funny because Gemini is an energy that is very peppery in a sense, and very buoyant. It's also an air sign. But yeah.
Other questions or comments that people want to share? Does this move into air affect those of us with air placements more potently right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. There may be some of you who know a little bit about your own birth chart and what elements are maybe more prominent in your birth chart. And those of you who have air, you know, whether your sun sign is an air or just you have air in your chart. And also the air signs are Aquarius, Libra, and Gemini, for those who need reference. You know, it depends on your particular birth chart, but at the same time, anyone who has air placements, yes, I'd say, yes, those with air placements, this is an intuitive energy within yourself, that air energy that we talked about, air energy being light, buoyant, and about exchange. Air is so much about exchange and relationship. And relationship doesn't necessarily mean with another person or human, but relationship in general, whether that be with nature, the cosmos, spirit. So anyone with air signs, this is an intuitive energy within yourself. And also everyone in their birth chart has air to some degree. Just certain people have planets in air and have more prominent air energy and more intuitive, natural affinity with air or connection with air. So this affects all of us. But if you have air placements, yes, this is an energy that also you are integrating in these next 200 years and supporting others in integrating as well. Thanks for the question. Who are the thought leaders that created this version of astrology? Is this a shared knowledge between varying ancient communities? Yeah, that is a great question. Thank you. So the astrology that I am tapping into, people generally know as, I mean, in kind of the more general population, people refer to it as Western astrology. And so astrology is actually a practice that has been around for centuries, thousands of years, you know, it's been around forever. Of course, the stars have been here longer than we humans have been here. So astrology actually, you know, comes from every tradition, and there are different ways of mapping the stars and the planets. And so every tradition has their own unique system. Some are more correlated and overlap with each other. So my knowledge and what we've been talking about today stems from Western astrology. And the other practice that I'm learning right now is through my own ancestors' tradition, which is Baozi astrology, which some of you may have heard of, Chinese astrology. Yeah, so. And I guess this is a shared knowledge between. Yeah. How will this great conjunction affect those with Saturn and Aquarius placements? Yeah. Saturn in Aquarius. So some of you who may know your birth chart may know that you have Saturn in Aquarius, but for those who may not know their birth chart, they're can't remember the exact years. I know that people who are born from about somewhere in 1990 to 1993 all have Saturn in Aquarius, meaning that you are going through your first Saturn return. And if you don't know any of these words, that's totally okay. These are some words that maybe have popped up for you in mainstream. And then I guess I won't do all the math. I'll just answer the question of the great conjunction affecting those with Saturn and Aquarius placements. So yes, so if you have Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn is returning to the same sign. It's returning to Aquarius, which is the sign it was in when you were born. And this is the first time in some people's lifetimes, if you're about 27 to 30, this is the first time that it will return to Aquarius in your lifetime. For those who are about 55 to 59 or so, and this is your second Saturn return, and you have Saturn in Aquarius, this is also a prominent time for you. And so when Saturn returns to the same position, the same zodiac sign that it was in when you were born, that means you're going through your Saturn return. And there's a lot of stuff on the internet about Saturn return, but I'll just say it more simply, which is that at your Saturn return, it is a time of, Saturn is a planet of consolidating and grounding and reducing. Saturn is a planet that it's really about taking what's no longer needed and sweeping it away, stripping it away, and coming down to what is necessary, what is at the core. And so the process of that is necessary so that we can step into ourselves and step into our responsibilities to ourselves and to others. So Saturn is a planet of maturity and groundedness. And so that may seem, maybe that may seem daunting. Saturn returns may seem daunting. And you would have to look at your particular birth chart to see how it plays out for you. But yeah, this is going to be a time of increasing, kind of stripping away and coming back to core self to make space for increasing responsibility. Thanks everyone with questions. Also, if anyone wants to unmute themselves, feel free. If you just want to say, you don't necessarily have a specific question. It can be astrology related. It can be anything related. Yeah. Hey.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you all for your questions and comments. Maybe this could be our last questions of the night. So is there a possibility of meeting with each other in ritual on December 21st? Oh, yeah, I think that's a great question. Definitely. Yeah, what do y'all think? I think this question can apply to everyone on here, right?
That's in 1 week, right?
It is. It's next Monday. It's on the
I can't believe it. Time is flying.
I know. It's the winter solstice already.
I know. I think for me, I would have to get back to folks, but I really appreciate the question, Giselle. and and I'm curious about what your intention is behind that, but I think that in creating this event and thinking about it as a workshop, I was wondering of like, oh, can we meet on like big astrological events, you know, and just have this kind of like periodic marker, and that potency of like using these energies, or like aligning with them, right? So that's really fascinating. Yeah, I think for
Yeah.
family reasons, I don't know if I can do next week, but the intention of it, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Giselle, for bringing that up. Yeah, and Amy for just naming like timings with astrological events that are happening. And you know, I would be curious to hear also if you'd like to share, Giselle, just about any intentions that you would have for that time, because it's also the solstice, and you know, there's rituals that can come around that time as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for this beautiful space tonight, for your wisdom and the connectivity here. Yeah, I think I brought up December 21st because it is the winter solstice, and I don't know if I got it correctly or understood correctly, but it seemed like December 21st was the day of the shift into Aquarius energy. So I'm curious if anyone would want to get together in ritual on the day that it happens. But I also understand that it's coming up very soon and it's around Christmas. So yeah, but I'm wondering if anyone else is interested in that.
Mm. I think what I can do is like in the email, like the follow-up email, you know, that I was sent out to folks, I can post that questions and interests. And if, you know, there's I think yeah, Carolyn expressed interest, right? And maybe other folks as well. So I can, yeah, do a call out, you know, for that. And if Giselle, if you're okay with maybe like being do you would yeah, like if you're okay with like having maybe your email if like, or a lead, you know, like in organizing that, if people are interested, maybe like there could be a way to connect and then co-plan that event together.
Yeah, great. I would definitely be willing to put my email out there, and anyone who's interested, we could just gather. And I'm sure, I mean, I don't think it would have to be too complicated either, but just, yeah, I think in the spirit of coming together in relationship and connectivity as we move into this new era, could be really beautiful and potent. I can also drop my email in the chat.
Awesome.
I just really wanted to use my voice and thank y'all so much for holding this really beautiful space. I've been in similar spaces like this, but really none that were so close to me locally in a long time, like based in the Bay Area. So I'm so grateful that you did this and so excited for what's to come. Yay, thank you.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, I think we'll put out our interest questionnaire, like Jang said, so we can see how we can host more of these. I think we forgot to mention that this is actually funded through 3 organizations and a couple of funders. So for folks who might be interested in knowing, Asian Refugees United, Korean Community Center of the East Bay, and Center for Empowering Refugee and Immigrants hold this space in terms of the funding and support. We work with Alameda County Behavioral Health Care, and so they have money that supports innovative mental health and community wellness events. And so we're really happy to be able to do this kind of work and offer the space. And also we have other grants like Cal Humanities who support kind of bringing communities together through arts and humanities. So yeah, that's why we're able to do this for free for folks.
Well, yeah, thanks everyone for being here. And yeah, hopefully, like there'll be other gatherings. And yeah, we'll be in connections with each other. Yeah, any other maybe words that folks want to put out before we end?
We can do a final like one-word checkout since there's only 10 of us. If folks are cool with that.
I'm cool with it. Can also be in the chat box for anyone who wants. Or just say bye. Totally fine.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good
night.
night. For me, my word is potent.
Julie said gratitude. Dong, you say release. Judy say full. Happy. Curiosity. I think my word for the night is love.
Yeah, I have spirit. I have one more word. I have compassion. Thanks for sharing, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Much gratitude. Hope everyone have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Love you.
Bye.